guys, it's Olivia and welcome back to Live in Literature. Thank you so much for all the love and support I received on my last video, and if you have not seen it yet, feel free to head on over to my channel to check it out. Well guys, thank you guys so much for watching our last week's video. Obviously we had a special guest, my really great friend Rebecca, on to talk about Hermione fanfiction. So if any of you have any comments, questions, and concerns about that video, feel free to either DM her, which I left her Instagram link there, or DM me to talk about more Hermione things.
You foul, loathsome, evil little cockroach!
Hermione, no!
And if you guys enjoyed that video, I would be happy to talk about more fanfiction content because I love fanfiction.
I love you, Metro Man!
And I love you, random citizen.
Well, as you've seen the title from today's video, today we're talking about who else is in a reading slump. Raise of hands, who else is in a reading slump these days? I think a lot of people, and many people that I've talked to, at least in my inner circles, have been talking about how everyone, I feel like in the month of March, went through an insane reading slump. Like, people were trekking the first 2 months of the year. Like, January and February, easy peasy, easy money. Everyone was trekking with their books. And then all of a sudden March hit and we all hit like a slump. And I have heard that from like multiple people. I don't know if anyone else is feeling like they're in a reading slump. I am currently like doing things to get out of it. I finally picked up one that like has gotten me out of it and I'm like back in my groove.
You threw off my groove!
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
I'm also reading a gorgeous Carissa Broadbent book right now, which I love her. So I'll have to let you guys know how that one is. But today I wanted to recommend to you guys a couple of books to help you get out of reading slump. Now, these are just my personal opinions of like what are good things to read to get out of reading slump. This could be different based on the person, but here's what I usually think is good things to like jumpstart you back into reading. And that is picking things that are like either easy to read, quick to read, and a standalone. So I genuinely think like when I say a book is easy to read, I don't mean that it's like we're reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid, okay? I mean, also if you enjoy that, sure, whatever.
Don't call me. Don't come by my house. We're done.
But like, I'm not talking like that. I'm talking like an easy read is something that's going to be like, the language is not going to be, no, we're not talking like high fantasy. We're not talking like high science fiction. Even like, we're not talking like philosophical contemporary. We're talking like easy reading, kind of like easy listening, where it's just like vibing music, like lo-fi. Like it's easy to like follow. It's easy to like get along with and jive with. That's like easy reading in my opinion. Something that's just like simple. Like, I'm not talking like we're not dumbing it down to middle schooler language. Like, we're still keeping it like age appropriate. But I just think something that is going to give you some easy reading is a great way to jumpstart yourself back into books, because you're like, oh my gosh, like I forgot how much like, because sometimes when you're going, you're reading, you just like get into a rut and you're just like, my brain, like, I feel like your brain gets overstimulated, it gets tired, and it's like, I can't compute all this like high fantasy stuff. Like, I just need something easy. And so sometimes you need to take a detour and do something easy to get yourself back into your reading grind. The other point I wanted to make was that it needs to be short. Like, I'm talking short, sweet, easy to the point, quick to the point, like something fast. I usually think like something like in the 200 to 300 page mark is usually pretty good. Anything higher than that, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more hard, but it just depends on the book though. I think it just depends on what you're reading. It can be like a 400, 500 page book, but I think keeping it anywhere from like 200 to 300 pages is like a good, like quick read to like jumpstart yourself back into it. And of course, the final thing I talked about was that it's a standalone. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be true, but I do think that standalones can help because it's like one and done. Like, you're like, I accomplished that. It's one and done. And for my like intense readers out there, like sometimes you just need like, because sometimes like when you're in your grind of trying to get through your TBR, you're just like, man, I haven't finished a single book. You're like, what is wrong with me? Like, I can't do it. Sometimes you just need like a simple little standalone to just like get you back into it. And then you're like, okay, now I'm ready to tackle like a 7-book long series like Throne of Glass. So I have curated a list of like 5 or 6 books today that we're going to talk about. Some that we've talked about a lot on the channel so far this year. Sorry for the repeats, but I can't help but recommend them because I think that they will help a lot of you get out of reading slumps. And some are some oldies but goodies that I just really enjoy and I think are just like fun to read. And we've got a mix here, some contemporary, some fantasy, some romantasy, and all that good jazz. So I hope you guys will stick around to watch how to get out of reading slump. Let's get started. The first one, an oldie but a goodie that I love to recommend to get out of reading slump, is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Daisy Jones and the Six is following it's a interview style format book. So it's written like an interview style and a person is interviewing a famous band from the 1960s, like late 1960s into the 70s, and basically like their rise and fall from like stardom to like ending. And this book is fabulous. I love Daisy Jones and the Six, and I also just love Taylor Jenkins Reid in general. This is a quick read. It's an easy read. It's like, it's got high stakes and like really great romance and like great sexual tension. Like there's a lot of like very conflicting characters, a lot of characters who are just very morally gray. I feel like this gives a really great peek into like what life was like in the 60s and the 70s for like rock stars. And I just absolutely adore this book. I think it's a great read. And I've heard from many people that the audiobook for this book is incredible because it's a cast in an audiobook. So like each person is casted by a separate voice. And because it's interview format, it's kind of fun to listen to because it's almost like a podcast. So if you're interested in Daisy Jones and the Six, I highly recommend that you check this book out or listen to the audiobook, and also the TV show on Amazon Prime. Ain't so bad. Finnick Odair, that actor, whatever his name is.
I know how devastating that must be for you. Have a good day.
He plays Billy, like the main lead singer of this band. Oh my gosh, she's so hot. Please go watch it. It's really, really good. So give this one a go. The next one that I want to recommend is one that is, again, like a quick, easy, like fun fantasy. We have Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. Now, Elise Kova, I feel like can be a little bit of like a hot topic in the book talk world. I feel like because like some people are like, she's not a real author, like her writing's really poor. Some people feel like it's really poor. Some people are like really big fans. For me, like I think it just depends on the book. Like I think like her Air Awaken series, like I tried that one, I did not like it. But these like little standalone, like she does these like little standalone fantasies that are it's called Married to Magic. She has this little group that she calls the Married to Magic series, and they're all these like little standalone like fantasy ones. She has another one called like Dance with the Elf Prince. Anyways, they're really fun and like really easy to read. This one happens to be one of my favorites. It's about a young human woman who's 19 years old. Her name's Luella. She lives in a human village that's like near the Fey realm. And apparently every 100 years, a human person is sent to the Fey realm to become the new elf queen and is like sent as like a sacrifice. The village chooses Luella. They abandon her. The elf king arrives and takes her back into his kingdom, only for her to discover that like something horribly wrong is going on in the kingdom and that they need her help to help like essentially cure the kingdom of this goings on essentially. I really like this one. I think it's a quick read. I think it's an easy read. I think it's just like fun and romantic and like very sweet. You get kind of those like forced proximity, you get arranged marriage, you get like cold-hearted elf king meets like warm-hearted like elf or warm-hearted human girl.
I love it! Come on, let's go!
And like for me, like sometimes that's all that it takes for me. Sometimes all it takes is a pretty hot elf king and a cutie little human girl, and like I'm set. Like I'm set for life. I don't need anything else.
Are you ready to rock?
Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low.
I'd recommend anyone who's looking for like a quick little standalone and like something that is gonna like jumpstart them back into like the fantasy fun. Doing any of Elise Kova's like Married to Magic novels are great. I think that she is really sweet. I think she's a very like a sweet writer, and I really like her stuff. And this is one that I recommend to get out of a reading slump. The next one I want to recommend is one that I just finished and also happened to got to meet the author of this book and one of my most favorite authors of all time. If you know her, you love her. I've gabbed about her a bunch on this channel. We have Miss Amy Harmon, The Outlaw Noble Salt. So Amy Harmon, I've spoken about at length. She writes a very of different types of genres. She does fantasy, she does historical fiction, she does contemporary, she does it all. And I love her historical fictions. I also just love historical fiction in general. And this last week is when her book signing was, and I actually got to meet her at her book signing. One of the greatest moments of my life, inserting footage here.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
I mean, it was truly life-changing. I sobbed like a baby. It was really embarrassing, but also I couldn't help myself. I thought I was going to throw up and die. Everyone was acting so cool at this book signing, and I'm over there like blubbering in the corner like I could not get a grip. Anyways.
Both of you will get a grip, or so help me, I will ground you for a month. Understand?
I want to talk about her newest book, which is like jump-starting me back and's gotten me out of my reading slump. I will always recommend an Amy Harmon to get you out of a reading slump because she does these gorgeous standalone novels that are all compact into these perfect little worlds that I just love. And this one, The Outlaw Noble Salt, is about the outlaw Butch Cassidy, who obviously notorious outlaw from like the late 1800s, early 1900s, like 1901 to like 1907. Anyways, apparently in the outlaw Butch Cassidy's life, which I did not know this, apparently from 1901 to 1907, there's a gap where no one knew where he was. And so Amy Harmon essentially has taken the liberty of creating a story for him of like, where was he during this gap period of his life? No one knew where he was, and this just happens to be it. I love an outlaw. I love a Western. I love anything that has to do with like cowboys and
I can fix that.
the whole bit. I like love this time of history. I just love it. I think it's so romantic and full of turmoil and hardship. And I love those things. I love dirty, sexy, cowboy riding, hat wearing, scarf bandit vibes. Like I just love it when they're dirty and they're sweaty and I just want to lick the sweat off their neck.
These are great. The dirtier, the better.
I feel this book is a beautiful tribute to him, and it's a beautiful tribute to like life back in this time period in the early 1900s.
And it's also really romantic. There's a romance plot and it's gorgeous. I'm obsessed.
So I cannot recommend this book enough. I absolutely love it. And this book is incredible. Please go read The Outlaw Noble Salt. It will change your life. If you're needing some adventure and a good Western and a man with like a man on a mission, but like a good man, you're going to want to read this book. It'll change your life. This book also, by the way, 5 stars. 5 stars to Miss Amy Harmon. Cannot recommend this book enough. Next, we have one that I cannot stop talking about, and I'm literally, guess what, everyone? I'm sorry. I'm actually sorry about it because it's honestly stupid how much I can't stop talking about this book. And listen, again, this is another one that's like up in arms in the book talk community because everyone's like, oh, it's been marketed as this and it's not even this at all. And I'm like, blah, 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 whatever, okay? If you're wanting to get out of a reading slump, just read Powerless, okay? Read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Now here, listen, I understand why the whole book talk community is up in arms about it because they're like, it's marketed as this like really like intense romantasy. And guess what? I would say that it is. I would say that it is an intense romantasy. I think what people are upset though is because I feel like they think it's going to be a new adult, like an adult like romantasy, and it's not, and then they're disappointed. That's genuinely what I think it is. And I'm just like, newsflash people, it's YA, okay? It's YA. You have to accept that it's YA, and not everything is going to be like a new adult ACOTAR like vibes. I'm sorry, okay? And so if you're looking for a new adult book, this one's not it, okay? Do not come to this one. This one is for like, it's a YA, but also like extremely fun banter and extremely palpable enemies to lovers. This, I will say, is like top tier of some of the best enemies to lovers writing I've ever seen. The enemies to lovers plot of this is the only thing holding this book together. Like, I love this book, but truly, if it did not have this good of banter and this good of an enemies to lovers, it would not be good at all. It would be bad.
It's not bad, it's just not good.
But because of how incredible the enemies to lovers is written in this book, it's like 5 stars for me. Like, seriously, it's so good. Like, the tensions are so palpable. The book, I mean, I've talked about the plot of this one before, but essentially the book is about a young girl named Payton who is an ordinary, and they live in a land basically based on, like, if you're an ordinary or you're an elite. Ordinaries get killed. If you're an ordinary, like, you can't exist in this realm. She's posing as an elite, though, to, like, get by. Essentially, she gets entangled one day with the king's enforcer, who's an elite. His name's Kai. Very sexy, very hot, very bad boy. He's so hot. I love him.
Girl, I am gagging.
Anyways, they get entangled one day, and she essentially gets like volunteered by the people of this kingdom to like to enter like the king's contest to become like the next like enforcer, essentially. And so, like, obviously the enforcer Kai, who is, like, the king's son, is in this competition. She's in this competition with, like, a bunch of other elites, but she's posing, you know? Anyways, so it's essentially, like, if Hunger Games met medieval times is kind of the vibes of this book. I, for one, love it. I know it can be a little bit cheesy at times, and the writing's not always the best, but will I say it was a quick read? Yeah. Will I say that it was an easy read? Yeah. And will I say that is a standalone? No. But I'm excited to read book 2 and book 3, because I know it's going to be good. I know the tension is going to be palpable. It is raw enemies to lovers in here. We get everything that you want for an enemies to lovers. You get knives to throats. You get dresses. You get the banter, the quips, the wittiness, the love, the, like, just all of it. I just think it's everything. And I think that everyone should read this one, especially if you're trying to get out of a reading slump. The next one that I want to recommend is kind of one that's a little more niche. I feel like it kind of follows the similar vibe of Elise Kova's Deal with the Elf King. We have Radiance by Grace Draven. Now, Radiance, I don't even know how I found this book. I found it a long time ago. It's one that, like, I feel like falls in a similar vein, again, like Deal with the Elf King. Like, it's a very much like a cute, whimsical kind of fantasy story. There is a second one to this one, but essentially it's about it's kind of like a monster and human, like, romance, kind of.
That is disgusting. Give it to me now.
And I know that those are becoming more popular recently, like monster-human relationships. I would say that this monster is more like, he's almost like a vampire, sort of. Like, vampire-ish kind of, like, monster. I don't even know if that's a good way to describe him. He doesn't suck blood, though. He just kind of has the look. Anyways, essentially, though, this one is, again, an arranged marriage, forced proximity kind of vibes. So to give you a quick plot summary, we have a young prince named Brishan. He's like the second in line to the throne. He's the spare heir, very similar to Mr. Harry of the royal family. If you know, you know. Anyways.
It wasn't done in the wrong way, but it was just...
So Brishan is essentially like the spare heir, and the only thing that he can do to create, like, to bring some sort of, like, help to his kingdom is by marrying a human girl from a different nation to, like, essentially have, like, a peace treaty. Again, similarly with our princess, she's the niece to the king. Her name is Ildaiko. Ildaiko is, again, she's just the niece to the king. She, again, has known her entire life that the only thing that her, like, most usefulness was to be like an advantageous marriage to a rival kingdom. She meets... It says that essentially these two people, Brishan and Ildaiko, meet, like, on the day of their wedding. They meet then and they get married. And they're essentially, like, have to figure things out together as, like, war's coming and, like, how they're trying to, like, figure out their relationship with one another. This one, again, is, like, a very, like, sweet one. It's a very simple one. It's not, like, overly, like, hard to read. It's just it's a quick read. I like Ildaiko and Brishan. I think they're both very sweet and noble. This one also, I will say, maybe this is a turnoff for some people. This one I would say is not even an enemies to lovers. This one is just very much like forced proximity to lovers, kind of, and arranged marriage into lovers. So these two people, like, wouldn't necessarily say they hate each other. They're just a little bit indifferent at first, and then they get to know each other and they warm up very quickly. So there is no, like, enemies to lovers in this one. It's very much just like you're getting a saucy good time. Like, there's definitely there's some sexy schmexy times in here.
Sounds good to me.
It's very cute. It's very fun. So if you're just looking for, like, a quick and easy read about, like, two noble people being forced to put together in, like, these opposing kingdoms and slightly like a monster romance, then maybe you're going to want to check this one out. Personally, for me, I love it. I think it's very sweet and charming. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, though. I think everyone should give it a try. And last but certainly not least is a book that I currently don't have, but I've talked enough about this book this whole year long. We know her, we love her, we're going to talk about her some more. It's Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I mean, really, need I say more about Bride? Bride is the perfect book to get you out of a reading slump because Miss Ali Hazelwood gave us paranormal contemporary fantasy romance. Need I say more? It's got werewolves, it's got vampires, it's got sexy types, it's got hot characters, it's got great banter, it's got an interesting plot. Like, honestly, Ali Hazelwood, quit your day job because you need to keep writing paranormal romance. Ali Hazelwood, I know that you're known for writing, like, The Love Hypothesis and, like, all of these other incredible contemporary romances, but get your butt back into paranormal romance because this needs to happen way more often. I'm obsessed with paranormal romance from her. Seriously, it's like the most perfect book to recommend to get you out of a reading slump. Like, quite literally, it has everything that you need. It's a quick read, it's an easy read, and it's a standalone. Like, there could be potentially for a book 2, based on the way things ended, but that won't be for a while. And it's like a perfect book. It ties up in a bow. There's literally, like, nothing wrong with it. Personally, for me, it's a perfect book. It's like one of those ones. I saw a TikTok recently that made me laugh because it's honestly true. Some girl was like, I don't want to give this book 5 stars, but I have to because it is perfect. And that's how I feel because, like, my 5 stars are so precious to me. Like, the things that I think are 5 stars, like, I truly, like, I feel like I'm very picky about my 5-star reads. Like, what is a perfect book in my opinion? And, like, anything by Sarah J. Maas. And for me, like, is Bride on the same level as any SJM? Absolutely not. And yet it is still a perfect book. It's still a 5-star read. And it's the best thing I can recommend for anyone trying to get out of a reading slump. So that is all the books that I have to recommend for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Live in Literature YouTube channel. Do not forget to comment down below any video ideas that you want to see next. And let me know if any of these books helped you get out of a reading slump. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.